Hello and welcome to week 15 of Cinema 104, Film History. We are covering the most recent period, really from 2016 to present, which includes, of course, the Trump presidency. And the Obama and Trump presidency had a tremendous effect on the country in that one was, perceived as pretty leftist or liberal, one was perceived or was pretty uh, conservative or right. Um, So, what we see in Hollywood at this time um, is, as we discussed previously with the Obama administration, a greater awareness of diversity, a greater opening up of Hollywood, particularly for roles for African American and women. And in this time, in this particular period, we see them getting into the director's chair and taking full creative control. But we also see, and this is the big point, the films become very socially conscious. The younger generations, millennial, and behind them, Gen Z, sometimes called Zoomers, sometimes called Coronals, most of your generation, are much more socially aware, much more socially conscious. They are not racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic. They're much more open. And not only that, they're open to canceling or to rejecting prior culture that doesn't live up to their standards, prior culture that has questionable use of language or archetypes or stereotypes in their storytelling. So a lot of the films that we see produced this week are very socially conscious. They have a message, and they're also representing a voice from a minority that we haven't heard from. So in Get Out, we have interracial dating explored, very similar to Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. One of the reasons I included that film earlier in the course is so that it would link up with Get Out here at the end of the course, and we could see the connection between those two films. In the 60s, we had a lot of social consciousness and a sort of a warming of race relations, at least for some of the country, but that also created backlash. And that's where the Trump presidency comes in. And so Get Out coming out when it did was very timely. And so that connection is interesting. Then we have Lady Bird, beautiful debut film from Greta Gerwig, um, an actress who is now on her way to becoming a Hollywood auteur. Roma, again from Alfonso Cuarón, a Mexican director in Spanish. Beautiful, beautiful black and white film. Most of you will never watch it in its entirety, but even just watching it in clips, you see it's a classic, very nice, slow character portrait of a character we never get to see in cinema, which is an indigenous woman who the character is actually based on his maid growing up in his middle class family in Mexico City. And then lastly, we finish with Parasite. And with Parasite and with a couple films I'll mention next week, we start to see a rising class consciousness. We see a film which was really important because it's the first foreign language film to win the Oscar. Okay, it's a huge achievement. It won a number of Oscars and was lauded by Hollywood and saw by many people. I'm always amazed at how many people saw this foreign language film, how many of my students really like it because of its very stark commentary that really nails what's going on in our time, the disparity between the rich and the poor. And it portrays it in a non-didactic way, in a very artistic and clever and even absurd way. And we'll see, there is some absurdity in these films, particularly the films that are commenting about our times. But what links them all together is a greater social awareness that are seen in the population, particularly the young movie-going population that's your generation. And then that begins to be reflected in Hollywood. And it also generates backlash. There's also films that are, I guess, maybe not counter woke, but are films that are specifically not trying to be woke, or there are some woke failures, which are all discussed in the chapter. So we get into the most recent films. I know I missed a lot of films, so please forgive me. Can't cover everything, but hope you enjoy it. Reach out with any questions, and I look forward to your homework.